Hi everyone, I'm Luan. So today I will answer some questions related to French Quarter lesson. So let's start. The first, the Vietnam and French. The summarize the domestic and international history background relating to French invasion and colonization of Vietnam. Uh, the domestic, it can be affirmed that the crisis of the feudal government in Vietnam in the first half of the 19th century was one of the leading reasons why the French army invaded Vietnam. Politically, about the politically, the government implemented a policy of suppressing the people's struggle movement. Living under the feudal society, there are many uprisings against the regime, but they were on the extinguished after the party and fires repression. The government blinding, blindly carried out fraud policy submitted to the Qing dynasty promulgated the Galong law, closed the country and the tone did not trade with France as the country. From then on, the leading to the current situation, France was also suffering from the poverty. People's lives were already miserable, but now they are even more miserable. About economic, abolishing the progressive reform of the Joseon dynasty caused the country's economic development to stagnate. Economic sectors, agriculture, handicraft, and commercial have no opportunity to develop, making people's lives miserable, accompanied by high income and in addition to having to suffer from natural disaster and epidemics. Between the Nguyễn Cao and the people, more and more disagreements and conflicts arose, leading to many uprisings against the feudal state. From the time of Gia Long to the beginning of French invasions, there were nearly 500 uprisings led by farmers. They caused the Nguyễn dynasty to fall into a state of crisis. In addition, Vietnam is a crossroad of Indochina. Coastal goods transportation is very convenient, so it is vulnerable to invasion. Invade Vietnam first, plots like to with a close neighboring country. Vietnam has a large population but no education level, weak earshot of a large number of cheap people. During the feudal period, so our people suffers from the oppression and misery. If you don't eat enough, don't dress warmly enough, you won't be able to learn. Did a huge disadvantage. The French colonialists found this beneficial. If they could dominate Vietnam, this would be the main proactive force. And about the international historical background, due to the development of legal capitalism, market and colonialism increased. Western countries stepped up their invasion of the eastern country to expand markets and exploit the resource. Since the late 19th century, capitalism moved from the state of free competition to imperialism. Imperialist capital countries carry out policy internally. They increase exploitation of working people and externally the increased invasion activity and oppress the people colonial nations. So the question, what did French colonists do in Vietnam and Vietnam people? How does the accent affect Vietnam society and Vietnam people? Were there any accidental, accidentally good thing that French colonists did in Vietnam? French colonists in Vietnam implement a random policy and action that has significant and lasting effect on Vietnamese society and its people. Here is an overview of what France did and how impact in Vietnam. The firstly, economic exploitation. The French sought, sought, sought out to exploit the Vietnam resource for their own economic benefit. They imposed heavy tax and land reforms that often left Vietnam peasants in poverty. This economic exploitation led to a significant wealth gap between the Vietnamese population and French colonies. Cultural impact. The French colonial rules also had a profound cultural impact. It introduced Western culture, education, and language to Vietnam. Why this, mo- why this modernization has some positive effect in terms and infrastructure and education, it also eroded, eroded traditional Vietnam culture and values. Forced labor. The French exacted forced labor from the Vietnamese population for the public works project and plantations, contributing to the suffering and exploitation of the Vietnam labor force. About the education, the French introduced a modern education system in Vietnam, but it was primarily designed to serve the, the interests of colonial administration of French population in Vietnam. Access to quality education were limited for most Vietnamese. What reason impact? The French sought out to undermine the influence Buddhism and indigenous Vietnam religions, favoring the spread of Christianity. They led to religious tension and conflicts within Vietnamese society. About the infrastructure development, some infrastructure development occurs under the French rule, including the construction of the railways, roads, and buildings. However, these were primarily for the benefit of French colonial administration and commerce. And finally, it's important to note that while there were some unintended positive consequences such as limited modernization and infrastructure development, they were often overshadowed by the overall negative impact of the colonization of the Vietnamese people and their society. The exploitation, cultural disruption, and political oppression that came with Vietnam colonial rule left a lasting legacy and played a significant role in the shape of the core Vietnamese history and eventual structure for the dependency. So, like, how did and was there any accidentally good thing that the French colonists did in Vietnam? The first, modernization and infrastructure development. The French introduced modern infrastructure such as railway, roads, ports, and public building. which has same positive impact on transportation and urban development in Vietnam. The second, education and healthcare. The French established a school hospital which improve access to education and healthcare for some segments of the Vietnamese people. However, these services were primarily provided to French and Vietnamese elites. Legal and administrative reforms. The French introduced the modern legislation system and administration structures, which although served the French interests, also brought some semblance of order and government to Vietnam. It is important to note that the positive impact of French colonization were often limited in scope and primarily served the interests of the French ruling class, rather than the benefits of broader Vietnamese society. The long-term effect of French colonization continued to shape Vietnam society and its relationship with wider world. So next, present the 1954 Geneva Conference background, signatory and provisions. What countries decide to divide Vietnam at the 17 parallels. The Geneva Conference were intended to settle outstanding issues resulting from the Korea War and First Indochina War, and involved several nations. About the background, the conference was held in Geneva, Switzerland from the April 26 to July 21, 1954. Particular participants include the Cambodia, China, France, Laos, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, and Viet Minh. It was the convention to find a solution to conflict in Indochina, which has been ongoing since the end of World War II. The conflict involved the structure for the control over Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Signatory. The main signatories include France, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, North Vietnamese led by Ho Chi Minh, and the State of Vietnam, and the United States, and the Soviet Union, China, and United Kingdom. The conference featured numerous delegations reflecting the complex geopolitical interests involved. About the provisions, one of the key provisions was the temporary division of Vietnam at the 17th parallel. Lost Vietnam under the country of Communist folk led by Ho Chi Minh was recognized as the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. South Vietnam under the leadership of the Emperor Bảo Đại and later Ngô Đình Diệm were established as a state of Vietnam, and an armistice was declared, and both sides agreed to cease hostilities. And the decision to divide Vietnam at the 17th parallel were part of the Geneva Accords, and it was intended to add a temporary solution to the ongoing conflict, with the expectation that reunification would occur through the election in the 1956. So next, what country support Vietnam during the struggle against France? North Vietnam was supported by the Soviet Union, China, and other communist allies. South Vietnam was supported by United States, South Korea, the Philippines, Australia, Thailand, and other anti-communist allies. After all, do you hate French people because of what they did during their colonization in Vietnam? Or so it's hard to say that I don't hate the French colonialists for what they did to the Vietnamese people during that period. But because I'm living in a peaceful time, and the country is increasing civilized, and I should also look at the present and future good things to forget about their crimes. Okay, so now is the next part to Hanoi prison. Make the general introduction of Hanoi prison, about the construction and historical background that led to construction of the prison, the structure of the prison, the function of the rail in the different periods to these days. Hanoi prison was a prison in Hanoi originally used by the French colonists in Indochina for political prisoners, and later by North Vietnam for U.S. prisoners of war during the Vietnam Wars. This prison was built by the French colonialists in 1896 in the land of Hanoi Village. The largest and the most solid structure in the Indochina was with a total area of more than 12 square meters. City central of prison of both central and northern regions. The French name of this prison is Maison Central in Vietnamese. Central prison, at that time often called the Hanoi prison. Hanoi prison is divided into 4 zones: A, B, C, and D. Area A and B are for prisoner under consideration and dangerous prisoners. Area C holds French or foreign prisoners. Area D is a place where the prisoners sentenced to die and are prohibited from waiting their sentences to approve or commute. Surrounding the prison is a solid stone wall 4 meters high and uh, a half a half a half thick, with broken portal and high voltage wire placed on top and prevent prisoners from escaping. About the French colonial period, when prison was primarily used by the French to incarcerate political dissidents, nationalists, and those who opposed colonial rule. Conditions in the prison were harsh, and many Vietnamese nationalists endure significant suffering within its walls. After that, Vietnamese resistance and independence during World War II and the Japanese occupation of Vietnam, the prison briefly fell under Japanese control after Japanese defeat in the 1945. It was taken over by Vietnamese nationalists who had fought against Japanese occupation and who was now in control of Hanoi. And next, Vietnam War period, Hanoi prison gained international notoriety during the Vietnam War when it housed American prisoner of war. The American prisoner of war fatally referred to it as the Hanoi Hilton. Post-war era and museum today, Hanoi Prison serves as a museum that exhibits the history of the prison, including its using during the French colonial period and the Vietnam Wars. It showcases the story of the Vietnam who was imprisoned there and as well as the appearance of American prisoner of war. The next question: how were Vietnamese political prisoners treated in the Hanoi prison? The French colonists used many different types of punishments and the suppression against Vietnamese patriotic and revolutionary fighters. Being kept in the dungeon, legs shocking all night, has label to name a few. The dwellers in the convents with contractors cut down the food ration of prisoners and use the best quantity of food, most dry, spoiled, not nutritious. Every year they were provided two uniform and one blanket of the winter. Due to the poor quantity of food and poor sanitary conditions, many prisoners contracted disease such as the periphery, typhoid, and dysentery, malaria, or were unable to cope with their illness. Many of them died before their prison term expired. What was the difference between how the French treated Vietnam political prisoner and the Vietnamese treated American vows? I mean the prisoners of war. There was a notable difference between how the French treated Vietnamese political prisoners in the Hanoi prison during the colonial periods and how the North Vietnamese government treated American prisoners of war during the Vietnam War. It is essential to recognize that their difference was influenced by the substantial historical context, international norms, and the involving nature of warfare during its period. Here are some of the key distinctions. In international norms during the Vietnam War, international norms and agreements such as the Geneva Conventions influenced the treatment of the bound. North Vietnam War, a signatory of the Geneva Conventions, which established a standard for the human treatment of the captured military personnel. And like the basic needs met, American prisoners of war in the North Vietnam generally received better treatment in the terms of basic necessities, such as food, clothing, and shelter compared to the conditions faced by the Vietnamese political prisoners under the French colonial rules. Limited use of the torture, while some instances of the mistreatment and physical presence occurs. The North Vietnamese government generally refrained from the systematic of the torture on the American prisoners of war. They were in line with the international convention. And finally, the family communication. American prisoners of war were allowed limited communication with their family through letter and occasionally Red Cross vision. These were in accordance with international agreements. So the next question: Do you believe in on the information presented at While prison? Give reason to support your answer. Um, in my opinion, I don't believe in on the information, especially the treatment of American prisoner of war in Hua prison. It has been a subject of the controversy, controversies and differing accounts, and from both the Vietnamese and American sources have to present the content narrative about the conditional treatment of the prisoners of war. For the front part, I just mode of information exhibited there because they were confirmed that by on the subhumanity conditions and facility of prison. Obviously, this place were placed you to be held held to torture the most dangerous political prisoners that would have potentially led to either uprising against the French colonies. Uh, for the American prisoners of war part, I partly believe in the documents shown. Of course, Vietnam during the war is not comfortable for a normal person. Not to mention a prisoner due to the nature hatred of Vietnamese against American soldiers and the fact that most of them were badly injured. It was understandable that most prisoners of war would have been treated badly. However, according to some sources, the Vietnamese government has improved the conditions significantly at the end of the war. So now we do the third part, Vietnamese and US. When, why, and how long did the US get involved in Vietnam wars? Why? Why would the US defeat in Vietnam? The United States became involved in the Vietnam War in the early 1960s and remained engaged until the fall of Saigon in 1975. The primary reason for the U.S. involvement was the Cold War conflict, with the U.S. Arming to prevent the spread of communism in the Southeast Asia. The U.S. supported the South Vietnamese government against the communist force of the North Vietnam, known as the Viet Cong. The U.S. believes that by providing military assistance and advisor, they could have the South Vietnamese government resist the communist force. However, the U.S. faced several challenges that ultimately led their defeat in Vietnam. Firstly, the U.S. underestimate the determination and resiliency of the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese army. The communist force utilized guerrilla warfare tactics, which made it different for the U.S. military to combat effectively. The first, the second, the war faced significant opposition and protest with the U.S. itself. Many Americans were against the due to the high casualty rates and the perception that it was an unnecessary conflict and the belief that was the unjustifiable intervention in the international affairs of Vietnam. Thirdly, the lack of clear objective and comprehensive training hindered the U.S. effort. The U.S. military was unable to achieve a decisive victory or successfully counter the communist force. The, lastly, the war also faced logistical challenges, include the different terrains, unfamiliar environment, and practice a complex the tunnel and supply routes used by the Viet Cong. The next was who was Viet Cong. The Viet Cong was an armed communist organization and movement South Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, formerly organized as the National Liberation Front of South Vietnam, Mặt trận Dân tộc Giải phóng miền Nam Việt Nam. It fought under the director of North Vietnam against the South Vietnamese and United States government during the Vietnam War. Today's Vietnamese media most frequently refer to group as the Liberation Army of South Vietnam, Quân Giải phóng miền Nam Việt Nam. So I want to share more and more information to you, but because the time is limited, so I would like to stop the presentation here. And thank you for your listening. Thank you very much.